I hope you're having yourselves a fantastic morning this morning and making the most of your day. I am so happy to be here with you on Wake Up Call in a very special Saturday broadcast. So you know that our show is Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time, and that is where we are every single week. This week we decided during championship week, I decided to go an extra day here and give you a Saturday. And with everything going on, it made perfect sense to add another day. With all the news on Jim Boeheim retiring after 47 years, as well as Adrian Autry being promoted from associate head coach to head coach, and everything that's come from that, the official press conference for Adrian Autry, as well as the breaking news exclusive that Alan Griffin, assistant coach of the team, had on my show on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora yesterday morning, stating that he and Jerry McNamara will remain on the staff and be with Adrian as Adrian takes over and moves forward with the Syracuse Orange men's basketball program into the future. So a lot of crazy, amazing things going on, and tough moments going on too. You know, people being sad about Boeheim and whatnot, which is completely understandable. You know, people that it's going to take some time to. I think it's funny that, you know, people had such an issue. Some people had such an issue with Jim Boeheim and couldn't wait for him to leave. And now that Syracuse has moved forward, people have lost their minds as to what they're supposed to do now and how they're supposed to handle this. So, you know, it's just funny how the world works and how people seem to complain about something and then 5 minutes later go, oh, no, I love that. I love it so much. So, you know, definitely it's been an interesting week. And normally every single season during conference tournament time, championship week, I call it tourney time talk. I have Syracuse Orange men's basketball alumni on with me all week, no matter what Syracuse does in their respective tournament, dating back to the Big East now into the ACC. Whether they win or lose, I feature Syracuse Orange men's basketball alumni through this entire week. And so I was going to do that no matter what. Little did I know, and little did many of us know, that this was going to be the moment that Jim Boeheim retired. And with that being the moment, I had the opportunity now to celebrate and speak with so many alumni that we were scheduling to have on this broadcast. Now we get to talk about so much more. You know, I was going to talk about the season, the state of the team, this, that, and whatever. And now here we are to looking at so many different things that are here, right? Alan Griffin and Jerry McNamara remaining on the staff, which Alan, like I said, broke on my show. And then we have Jim Boeheim retiring. We have Adrian Autry taking over. We have so many things to go through that I get to celebrate with the alumni of Syracuse Orange men's basketball. So very excited that today, in just a few minutes here, we're going to be joined by our first guest inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, and that's going to be inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. Sonny Spera is going to be joining me here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and I'm very, very ecstatic for the opportunity to speak with him, as well as Gene Waldron and JB Reafsnyder this morning. They're all going to be joining me to talk on Jim Boeheim, 47 years, being their coach, being so many players' coaches over almost 5 decades now. So we'll talk about, you know, Jim Boeheim with each of them and get their thoughts on Boeheim and get their thoughts on his final press conference, his final game, and then, you know, his most recent words and stepping forward. And so you'll get to hear from Sonny Spera and then Gene Waldron right around at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time and JB Reafsnyder at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. They will all join me to give their thoughts on Jim Boeheim's retirement after 47 years. We will also be discussing Adrian Autry taking over the program and Syracuse Then and Now, as well as their take on Jerry McNamara and Alan Griffin staying with the team, which again was breaking news on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Right after Adrian Autry's press conference, I asked Alan Griffin, he came onto the show for an exclusive special, and we spoke about a lot of different things, his hopes of players returning to the team, how much the team actually knew about Jim Boeheim's retirement and the plan to hire Adrian Autry. And we also get into the fact that Alan Griffin stated on my show specifically and clearly that he and Jerry McNamara will be returning to the team as assistant coaches, and obviously that leaves open a spot, and we'll see who's going to be filling that spot, which I'm excited, and I have some thoughts on who could fill that spot, and maybe some of these gentlemen this morning will be sharing their thoughts on who can fill that spot as well. So a lot of great stuff coming up here where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, and Cafe Kubal on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street. Those are all in Syracuse, New York. You'll also find them by going to 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and by going to the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road to Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse to their drive-through location. So however you find them, I thank you so much for heading off to Cafe Kubal and supporting local, filling your cup up right, and knowing that a cup of coffee, cup of tea, cup of chai goes a long way in Central New York. So thank you so much for everybody that's giving back to our community by supporting the wonderful people that support us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. So a lot of great stuff coming up here today, and I am so excited about this trio of Syracuse Orange men's basketball alumni that are going to be joining me to give their take on everything going on with Syracuse basketball. Like I said, we were going to talk about the season, we were going to talk about the future, we were going to talk about so many different things, and then, here we are with Jim Boeheim announcing his retirement and Adrian Autry taking over the program. So we have obviously a lot more to talk about on top of what we already anticipated, and I'm excited to do it with these gentlemen. But before we go there, I want to give a very heartfelt congratulations to the Oswego State Lakers men's basketball team for defeating number 1 seeded Randolph-Macon on the road to advance to the Elite Eight of the NCAA Division III tournament. Incredible. This has been a fantastic season. It's been a wonderful season. And I am so proud, and I actually wanted to show you guys this because this is how much I believe in my buddy Jason Leone and his team and what he's doing at Oswego. So, this season has been an awesome season thus far, and they've done an incredible job. Well, I decided to get myself, I did this a long time ago, but then we'll talk about something I did recently. So this is my Oswego State Lakers hat. Now, I love this hat because growing up as a kid, I had hats like this for the Charlotte Hornets and the Orlando Magic, and where the logo went all the way over. So this is my Laker hat that I have. And then I bought this, went out and I bought it when I went to the game when they advanced to the Sweet 16. I bought this because it has on the back of it the entire field in the NCAA Division III men's basketball tournament. And right here, where are they? Right here on the top, you have Oswego State. And so they're in this upper, let me see here. They're in this upper corner. And so I bought this. It's the first time I ever bought a Division III bracket shirt. And I bought it because I believe that this year the Oswego State Lakers could very well do it. So I got it for a reason. It's sitting here with me. I wore this when I flew down to Greensboro to cover the ACC tournament. So the whole time that we've been down in Greensboro, I flew with that on, wore that through the airports that I was in, and all the way through to Greensboro, North Carolina. So just so you know, Oswego State, you're on my mind, you're in my heart, and I am hoping for you. I am believing in you. I'm excited for you. And I really think that this could be the year. This could be the year. And and like I said, that's why I bought the shirt, because in my head I feel like this could be the year that they do it, and I want to have a shirt that shows me the field that they go through. So I'm excited for them. They're advancing to the Elite Eight. They're incredible. They're awesome. And I don't have enough words to shout out my good friend Jason Leone, to shout out the wonderful Oswego State as a school, the athletic program, the basketball program, and just everything that they've done. I'm so happy to be connected to such a wonderful place and such wonderful people. And I just want to give you all a shout out and say thank you for letting me be a part of this run. Thank you for letting me be a part of the many, many years leading up to this. And I am so very happy for you, so very honored to know you, and so very excited about what's to come. So I cannot wait for this. This is going to be awesome, and it's going to be incredible. So this is really a great opportunity for Oswego State to do some amazing things and make some wonderful, beautiful history. So I can't wait to see what y'all do next, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. So before we talked about anything with the Syracuse trio, I wanted to officially congratulate the Oswego State Lakers men's basketball team on advancing to the nation's Elite Eight after taking down 1 seed Randolph-Macon on the road. You guys deserve the accolades, you deserve the flowers, you deserve all the good and positive energy coming your way. And so I send you all my love. I hope the best for you. I'm excited for you, and I can't wait to see what's coming up from here, because I truly believe that this can be a very special season that continues to just be amazing. So go out there, have fun, be yourselves, play your game, and know that I'm rooting for you all the way. With that being said, we're going to take a step aside for a fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. When I come back, I will be joined by my first of the trio that'll be here today, and that is Sonny Spera joining me here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', to give his thoughts on the movement that has happened at Syracuse with Jim Boeheim retiring, Adrian Autry taking over, and moving forward from here. So a lot of great stuff coming up right after this fast break where sports meets life. Thanks for being here inside the Cafe Kubal studios. This is Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and this is a very special bonus broadcast this week.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out with you where sports meets life, and we are on the road here. We're going to be finishing things up at the ACC tournament. That's why you see the Greensboro skyline behind me. So we're here for one more day and one more opportunity to have Wake Up Call on the road this week. The hashtag Wake Up Call OTR is what we use to let you know we're on the road, and we have had a very, very interesting week that has had a lot of emotions. And so here inside the Cafe Cabal Studios, we welcome you here and thank you for being here. And inside of MomPasPopcorn.com is What's Poppin'. Our first guest on the docket today to speak about this very unique week is Sonny Spera, Syracuse Orange men's basketball alum, here to talk with us about Boeheim, Autry, and Syracuse Then and Now. So with that being said, let's bring him in. Sonny, how we doing?
Doing great, man. It's like you said, it's been a busy few days.
Yeah, it's definitely been an eventful few days here, a lot of emotions. How did you kind of take this all in?
Well, how did I take it all in? I took it in difficultly. That's probably the worst word I could use, but it was very hard to stomach how things went down.
Yeah.
Especially in we'll call it the heat of the moment. And I think Coach and John Wildhack and the Chancellor had a chance to explain it, given some time and distance and perspective. And it was sad that you were going to see a legend, the architect, the originator, the builder of Syracuse University, men's basketball, and the university as well.
Yeah.
And someone mentioned it that a lot of people went to the university because of the basketball team and Coach Boeheim. So he's done more for the school in the last 60 years than arguably anyone or anything. So you can't top that.
No, you can't. And like you said, I mean, the way that it went down, I mean, I was here in Greensboro and I was in the room for the press conference and the questions and in real time and, you know, saying I didn't say I retired. I didn't say I didn't retire. It's up to the university. I gave my retirement speech, you know, in the last game of the season and just everything that he said. And it was just really strange. And then I went into the locker room and spoke with the guys. And, you know, some of them talked to me about it, you know, about whether or not he might come back. And I spoke with 8 different guys on the team, almost the entire roster. And, you know, Joe and Jesse and Judah and Claudia and Justin and so on and so forth, and just kind of getting their thoughts and, you know, where their head was at. I walked out of the locker room. I was the last media person there. I turned left. I saw Jerry. I shook his hand. I continued to walk down the hallway. And then within a few minutes, I got an email sent to my phone, and it didn't say anything about Boeheim. It just said, please see attached Syracuse, or please see attached men's basketball news, or men's basketball release. And I clicked on it, and it said Adrian takes over, Jim Boeheim moves on, and there wasn't even a quote from Jim. And I just remember sitting there saying to myself, they waited till they got out of the building, the door shut, and then they announced it, so none of the media could talk to him, and really nobody could have a reaction in that sense, and it was just a really strange way that it all went down.
You're not kidding. Disrespectful if you look at it from one aspect. And I think in the end, if you were to ask them over a beer or a cup of coffee,
yeah,
probably both sides could have handled it better. And it wasn't. I understand the urgency or the timing of it because right now college basketball, college athletics moves at light speed.
Yeah.
With the portal, transfer, kids, decisions. Was the staff going to stay in place? There's a million questions.
Yeah.
And probably not the time or place to do it, but I think the timing of it, there had to be something in the timing of it where they had to get that out at that point because there's no other explanation.
I mean, I think it just would have made more sense to do it in Syracuse, do it in the city that he built. Don't do it in Greensboro, far away from home, in a conference where Syracuse has never really made sense. And so I mean,
don't get me started on that.
But
I
that
came down to the Big East tournament this weekend. Don't even get me started. Oh my God!
Well, and I
wore my Syracuse gear, and everybody's stopping me. You guys should have never left. I go, you're preaching to the choir, brother.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I've said this to people. I've said it this week, and I love the ACC. And I love the way that they treat me. I love the way, I love being in it. I love the Big East. I love the way that they continue to treat me all these years later, and I love being in it. I'm a Big East kid. I can say that I appreciate, both conferences because of the way that I've been treated personally. When it comes to Syracuse and just strictly talking ball, 9 years later, almost 10 years later, I'm having conversations with people, and I said it to my dad yesterday. I go, it doesn't make sense still. And my dad goes, no. He said, I still believe they should be a Big East school. And so we're almost a decade later, and most people come up to me and say, this is not an ACC school, this is a Big East school, and we still don't make any sense here.
Again, preaching to the choir. I couldn't agree more. So that said, this is where we are.
Yeah.
And we understand why, and it's flat out the Benjamins and football. And that rules the day at the end of the day. When it came down to it, the Big East didn't have a football contract. Sorry about the background noise.
Okay.
We didn't have a football contract because the Big East failed to do that.
Yeah, so we see this this situation now, and like you said, you came down to the Big East tournament, and I know that there's already a lot of emotion, and I can feel that from you over the phone. And I'm going to say this to you, and I'm sure there's going to be more. Marquette and Xavier playing for the Big East Championship. Neither one of them founding members. Marquette has been in for a while, but still people forget they're a Big East school. Xavier has not been in that long, and yet these are the two teams. The number one team in the Big East this year, Marquette. The number two team, Xavier. They will fight for the championship. It is not UConn. It is not Villanova. It is not St. John's. It is not Georgetown. Give me your thoughts on the fact that the Big East Championship is two teams that are not traditional Big East teams.
Oh, I know. Tell me about it. I was at the Thursday night game with my one daughter. We went to those two games, rooting hard for Villanova.
Yeah.
They got beaten fairly easily.
Yeah.
So that hurt. Now we've got Creighton, the school from Nebraska, in the Big East. Nebraska, Big East. Okay. If that makes sense to you, God bless you.
Yeah.
Watched DePaul play Xavier, and that was a heck of a game, but no dog in that fight, although my cousin is a Xavier grad, and he's a huge booster, and he's my cousin, so I had a little bit rooting for them, but boy, DePaul was the underdog. I thought they were going to win. So that's it. So that game's done. So now we got UConn. St. John's almost beat their opponent. And then the next day, the entire St. John's coaching staff gets canned. So it was rocky. But, yeah, now what's left of the semifinals Friday? I take my other daughter to those games, and I'm rooting for UConn.
Yeah.
You know how hard that was?
I can imagine.
And I was sitting in an area where and UConn fans filled the garden.
Yeah.
Filled the garden. It was way more UConn fans than there was their opponent, which just escaped me for a second, but they took over. Marquette was their opponent, and Marquette played well, and I love Shaka, so to watch them, but Shaka and Danny Hurley was the performance of the day.
Yeah.
Those two coaches probably ran more miles than their players.
Yeah.
And were on the court out past the Madison Square Garden logo. So I was like, wow. So, and it was pretty cool because there's Bill Murray sitting there, and he's right behind the bench. His son is an assistant coach, and he couldn't have been nicer to the people around him. So I took it all in. But to your point to basketball, it's not the Big East the way it was. And, unfortunately, UConn didn't pull it out, but I did have to root for UConn. And I have met some of the guys from our podcast, the Big East Rewind. And there's some good people there, there's no doubt. But Hey, they were a rival,
Yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, it's like Patrick and Georgetown. I want to root for Patrick, but it's Georgetown, and that's still goes against my very being.
Yeah.
But I rooted for him, and unfortunately, they couldn't get it done. So it was really sad. And today, the finals will be, like you said, Xavier and Marquette. Xavier, Cincinnati, Marquette's Milwaukee. That the Big East? I think that's the Midwest on my maps, but
yeah,
that's and it's no longer geographic, right? It's all about the dollars.
Yeah, and I don't know if they did it. I'm guessing that they did, but when they do that, when they do the video of the Big East and the history of the Big East, they still put Syracuse up there, don't they?
Well, they should. I think Syracuse appeared in the most finals of any team by a huge number. A huge number. It's not even close.
And how many ACC finals has Syracuse been in? It's a different world. And we also saw, you spoke about Georgetown here with Sonny Spera, Syracuse Orange men's basketball alum, talking about missing the Big East, talking about the ACC as well as Boeheim Autry and Syracuse Then and Now. As we look at Syracuse then and we go back to that, obviously Georgetown, that rivalry is a rivalry that will live forever in history, and it continues to live on today. Patrick Ewing gets let go by Georgetown. John Thompson III, before that, got let go by Georgetown. It's a weird world, but John Thompson Jr. had this team in a special place doing special things, and then his son took over, John Thompson III, and it just didn't work out. And so that was kind of a strange occurrence, right? Because you have this lineage and he's let go. And then you have Patrick Ewing, who, is the face of a lot of people of Georgetown. When they think Georgetown, they think Ewing. And they let him go this season as Georgetown was at the bottom of the conference. How do you kind of take all of that and try to sift through that? The fact that, this family, the Thompson family, that it didn't work out with the third, and then here we are with Patrick Ewing, and I don't care what anybody says, like Georgetown or not, when you see Patrick Ewing let go from Georgetown, I felt bad for him.
Yeah, very true. And it all circles back to, and even Chris Mullen at St. John's, it all circles back to Coach Boeheim and Syracuse.
Yeah.
He arrived in 63 as an athlete. I was born in 63. So he's been Syracuse as long as I've been in existence. And that sunk in this morning. And I watched the presser yesterday, and I listened to Coach. But more importantly, I felt Coach when he spoke. He's not an emotional person. He was emotional yesterday. He was being himself. The moment, and it's not after the game. The emotions after the game, when you've lost and your season's over, are very simple. This sucks. I hate losing. It's the same. He doesn't like to lose, and he's not good at losing. So those emotions are very hard to deal with when you got to go talk to the press right away after a game, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes they get the best of you. But now, after a day or two, and to reflect on, like, how you say, like, hey, you got an accident, your life flashed before your eyes?
Yeah.
Well, if his life flashed before his eyes at Syracuse, it's like Gone with the Wind. It's like 5-6 hours movies.
Yeah.
For me, it's a commercial, It's 4 of my 60, almost 60 years now. His is 60 years of his 76.
Yeah.
Just put that in perspective. I don't think people can appreciate how loyal he has been. His staff, all Cuse guys. He raised them, so to speak, on basketball. They know Jim Boeheim basketball. So when you transition, that's a no-brainer. You're going to have continuity. You've got a great coach in Red. Of course, he's a point guard. I'm a little biased to point guards, right? So, and he's got tremendous, himself, tremendous background in the game, and was raised and played the game right. So I think the program is in good hands.
Yeah.
But the coach and his longevity and loyalty, no one will ever see that again at any school, anywhere, anytime.
Sonny Spera, Syracuse Orange men's basketball alum, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora this morning inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. And I agree wholeheartedly with those sentiments. I said those to my mom yesterday. I said, Ma, it'll never happen again. And I said it to my dad. It'll 47. And I said the reason why it'll never happen again is not even just because of loyalty from a coach to a school. It's that we live in a microwave society, and no one's going to give a coach 47 years. So they're just.
No, that's as a head coach.
Yeah.
He was an assistant.
Yeah.
He was even Mike Krzyzewski coached at Army.
Yeah.
So
Jay Wright was at Hofstra.
As long as he was doing it. Jim Boeheim is Syracuse. Is the definition.
And that's the thing is knowing this history that he has had and the connection that he's had. You know, I tell people that it's not only that Syracuse is on the map, arguably in many, many ways because of him, but that people even know my hometown, know how to spell my hometown. I can't go Sonny, you travel too. Have we either one of us been able to arguably go anywhere in the world and not have someone go, is that the Orange? Are you Cuse is in the house? I mean, I've literally walked down streets and people go, Cuse is in the house. Oh my God! Like, I mean, it's just it could be 20 years later, 30 years. It doesn't matter. But there's something to be. I mean, I remember I played volleyball in St. Petersburg. There was a bunch of people playing at my hotel, and they said, "Hey, do you want to play?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "You know, what's your name?" I said, "Dan." They said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Syracuse." They're like, "We're going to call you Syracuse." And every time I went after the ball, they yelled out Syracuse. And I mean, I don't forget moments like that. I don't forget a little kid that came into Hollywood Studios, Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater when I was working there. So he's at Disney, and he had a shirt on of the Syracuse ring. And I went over to him, and I bent down, and I said, I have that same shirt. And, you know, I mean, it's, or wearing a Syracuse name tag and having people stop you at least once or twice a day to talk about the team. How's the team doing? How are they looking this year? I mean, I don't think there's anything like it. And without Jim Boeheim, do I ever get stopped and have anybody talk to me about my hometown, arguably? You know what I mean? So it's pretty special.
You're not kidding. And Coach talked about the fans, and you think about it, 35,000 people in a community of, 200,000? Let's say it's 240. That's 1 out of 8 people is at your game.
Yeah. 1
in every 8.
Yeah.
Not 1 in 8 even like basketball in most communities, let alone support the university. And so that's just amazing. And to your point, I was away on a dental trip in the Middle East. So we're visiting some ruins of where St. Peter was from, and I got a Syracuse shirt on, and dude goes, "Hey, Cuse in the house," and I just started laughing. I was like, "You betcha." You know, how are they going to do? Just like you said, same thing. And that's what I experienced yesterday in the Madison Square Garden. Just walking around, I had my Syracuse jacket, but I had on a shirt too. And you guys never should have left. And then one guy grabbed me as I was leaving, and he was like, "The way they treated Coach, and he kind of went off." And I said, "I understand, and I know we all wish it could have went better.
Yeah. And
he deserves much more respect than certainly was put out there. And he had an opportunity, at least a small opportunity to speak, but there's a lot more. And I know Coach doesn't like that limelight. I get it. He's not he's about winning, and he's about the players. And he must have mentioned at least 5 times, I'm going to miss those guys. And he was pointing to his players and his coaching staff, but mostly those players. And I know he struggled with some of those guys this year, getting them to play to the level that they're capable of.
Yeah.
That he knows they can do, and that's where the challenges lie. If I think Dan Tortora can get a 98 on an exam, and Dan comes up with a 95 and he's happy about it, Coach B is going to be pissed because you are capable of a 98.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so you kind of let that sink in. That's unheard of nowadays, right? No, that's like everybody a trophy. Nice job, Johnny. We're gonna take you out. We're gonna get you a special treat. You did a nice job. No, you're capable of this. What did he say about Benny after that last game? He could do this every night.
Yeah.
So whereas coach's frustrations are, he doesn't do that every night, and he's not putting out the way that Coach Boeheim feels he's capable of. I mean, when you grow up and you get older, and you really realize that's about reaching your potential as a human being, whether it's in business or, your personal life. I mean, those kind of coaches and leaders are few and far between. And we should really thank.
Yeah. I mean, and again, and I tell people this all the time, I said it yesterday. How many times I was sitting in the ACC tournament next to a kid who covers Virginia, and I said, how many people in this world have an opportunity to cover one of the top 5 greatest coaches in college basketball history, and to sit here, and that's my everyday, and I want people to let that marinate and really let that sink in. Like, if you went to a game in the last 47 years in the Dome, and before that when he was an assistant, if you went to these games and you saw this coach and you shook his hand, or you saw him in Wegmans, or you saw him wherever walking the dog, Jim Boeheim, you got to meet a legend. And at Syracuse, if you met Ernie Davis, Jim Brown, John Desko, the Simmons family, Jim Boeheim. I mean, you think about, Floyd, Ernie, I mean, the world at Syracuse, it has been incredible, and the people there have been incredible. And Jim Boeheim, like his bedside manner or not, is one of the greatest. He's not one of the greatest college basketball coaches. He's not one of the greatest basketball coaches. He's one of the greatest sports figures of all time. And he sat in my hometown and has been in my hometown and will continue to be in my hometown. And I mean,
like you said yesterday,
it's crazy.
Right? I will finish my days in Syracuse, and I'm lucky.
And he said something that I loved, because I don't like answering this question at all. He said it this season when he grabbed the mic, and he said Syracuse is the greatest place to live.
Yep.
And really believes that. He didn't just say it to say it. He actually believes that area, Syracuse, New York, is there's no better. He said there's no better place to live, and I'll never forget that Jim said that. And I appreciate him for many reasons. And he could have gone to so many different places. Probably could have made more money.
He could have exactly. He could have held the school hostage like some other coaches we know, and grinded them and said, "Oh yeah, the Knicks call," and all of a sudden rumors are Coach Boeheim considered for the Knicks job. Boom, he gets an extra $1 million a year or a new contract extension. He never ever did that, because he is Syracuse. He's not going anywhere. And he said that one time. I remember that in an article, saying that this probably doesn't help me, but there's nowhere I want to be other than Syracuse. Yeah. And that's loyalty by definition. And from a dollars and cents standpoint, I know he was paid, in everyone's eyes well, but I think terribly underpaid in terms of what the market pays.
Yeah.
For a legendary 1,116 win coach.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Yeah. We
got a bargain, and we didn't appreciate it. Not all of us, but a lot of us didn't appreciate what we had when we had it. And love him, and I think he'll be fine, but it's hard. It's tough.
Yeah. The emotions run high, and my gut, I think, was twisted for is definitely throughout that night, overnight into the next day, and just a feeling in my arms, a feeling in my chest. And, and it still takes something to think about. But on the other end of it, on the other side of this mountain, we have Adrian Autry. And Red is a friend. Red is somebody that told me years ago he wanted to be a head coach. I wrote that in my article about, that the interaction we've had. I have been very blessed to be around him, to learn from him, to learn about him, the way he goes about things, the way he does things, the recruiter that he is, and just I love Adrian Autry. And when I got asked this question for the last couple of years, who's the next head coach, my words were, Adrian deserves it. I don't know if they'll give it to him, but he's earned the right to have the opportunity. And the fact that they gave...
Did you hear what Mr. Wellhack said yesterday, right?
Yeah.
John said associate head coach. So that means head coach in waiting.
Yeah.
And I think a number of people said, well, they never really advertised that. They never really put that out there. And I don't think I saw that either, but I think it was understood. And I've said the same thing, because everybody's like, well, what about... And there's no knock on any of the other coaches. Allen's paid his dues. He's a great coach, as is GMAC. So there's no mistake here. But Red deserves it, and Red's got it. And Red is going to do great things, but he's going to have to put his own stamp on the program.
Yeah.
Just like all the others who followed the guy. Rolly Massimino wins his first national championship in Villanova. He's out. Steve Lapis comes in. He struggles with the change in culture. Jay Wright comes in. He takes Rolly's culture and he blows it up and he puts his stamp on it. But he uses the foundation of what he learned with Rolly. So it's going to be a lot of the same thing. And I think Red will have tremendous success. He's got a dynamic personality.
Yeah.
Players really, I think, gravitate towards him. And I think he knows what the hell he's talking about, and he will have great success. And as alumni, we're going to support the hell out of Red. We love Red. He's going to do a great job. And like you said, he's a good friend of yours. He's a good friend of ours. And in the Italian culture, when you said he's a friend of ours, you know what that means, right? He's in.
Yeah.
So he's going to be great.
Yeah, you see that guy? You don't bother that guy. He's a friend of ours.
Friend of ours. That's it. Donnie Brasco. That's right.
So Sonny, here a final word, just to kind of leave it wide open. You know, we talked about Boeheim, we talked about Autry, we talked about the Big East and the ACC. But a final note today. You and I are going to have plenty of conversations from here, as we always do, I'm sure. But just kind of maybe the lasting thing that you want to leave with today, with so many emotions.
Well, I think the last thing I could say is. I mean, personally, Coach, thanks for taking a chance on a skinny 6'5" kid from Binghamton and believing in me where probably sometimes I didn't believe in myself, and pushing me where sometimes I didn't want to be pushed, and making me grow up faster than probably I wanted to, and learning to deal with life. And love you, and I know you're going to do great things and continue to be a tremendous ambassador for the university. And the community and everything Syracuse. And orange is not a color. Orange is the way of life. And that's because of Jim Boeheim.
Can't say it better than that. Sonny Spera, Syracuse Orange Basketball alum, speaking here this morning on Jim Boeheim, Adrian Autry, Syracuse Then and Now, and someone who is hurting like most of us when it comes to going to the Garden and loving the Garden, but not seeing Syracuse in the Garden. So
You bet.
Definitely appreciate it, Sonny, as always. Thank you for those heartfelt words. And I definitely felt them here in the studio, knowing that, he had an effect on you, like you said, growing up a little bit faster than maybe you wanted to. But there's something about Jim Boeheim's tough love that I feel has arguably gotten a lot out of a lot of people.
You betcha. Thanks, Dan. Have a good one.
Thank you, Sonny. I'll talk with you soon.
Take care.
Take care. That coming from Sonny Spera here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Emotional. I can feel it. I can definitely feel it here this morning. Without doubt. And that's what I love about building connections with people, is that you can feel them. You can feel them. You can feel their emotion. You get to really get a sense. When you care about people, you get a sense for, where they're at, right? And what's kind of going through them. And I felt that from Sonny this morning, and I appreciate Sonny for always being so candid. It is an emotional time. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll come back. with Gene Waldron right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, as we continue our bonus broadcast from Greensboro, North Carolina, celebrating Jim Boeheim, Adrian Autry, and speaking on the changing of the guard, which some people thought would never happen.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jim Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. Always appreciate being here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Today is a bonus broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora because that's what we do, right? We underpromise, overdeliver. So that's what we're here for, and we are here in Greensboro covering the ACC tournament and covering the American Athletic Conference tournament from afar, and also keeping a pulse on the other 30 conferences and what's going on in their tournament world as well. So a lot of great stuff coming up as we hurl toward Selection Sunday. And before that all comes about, there's a lot of things that have happened here at Syracuse. And in a year where Syracuse is not going to the postseason, we have other news that has taken up the Orange. And so I'm here to talk with you about that, and to talk with you, I have fantastic guests. You just heard from Sonny Spera inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', and now Gene Waldron is here with me on Wake Up Call, and we have the opportunity to speak on Boeheim, Autry, and Syracuse Then and Now. And as always, not my friend, not just an alum of Syracuse, but my brother, Mr. Gene Waldron. How we doing, sir?
Doing pretty good, buddy. Doing pretty good.
And Gene, let's go to the moment, right? Let's go back to the moment. I described it here earlier on in the show with Sonny of my experience in Greensboro, of the very strange press conference, and then Syracuse left the building, and then I got an email, and it was just a very kind of cold ending. But I wanted to get your thoughts about the moment when you realized that Jim Boeheim had retired after 47 seasons, and just kind of how you saw it through your kaleidoscope, so to speak.
Well, initially I was in shock on how it was presented to the people in Syracuse, how the media presented it. I just felt in a way that something better could have been done in terms of sending himself off on his retirement than what we actually saw experience. When you think about the history of Syracuse, all you think about is Jim Boeheim, and the fact that that was what happened was pretty awkward for me. And I admit, especially, because I love that guy. That man has been at my side when I couldn't even know what to do with myself at times. And he was always right there for me. So for me, shock set in, then a little bit of disappointment, upset, a little bit of anger, because that man deserved more than what was presented after that loss. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, and Gene, I mean, going off of that, like you said, I mean, it was weird. It was detached. It was unemotional. There was no quote in the email, even from Jim Boeheim, that Syracuse shared. It was just kind of like, Autry's in, Boeheim's out. Have a nice day, everybody. and the thing that hit me some kind of way is that Boeheim's been the coach for longer than I've been alive. I'm 37, 47 years for him. And so I've lived my entire life with him as the coach. It'll be 20 years broadcasting this November for me. So in my 19 plus years, I have covered Syracuse every year. I have interviewed Jim in some way, shape, or form for the last 10 or 11 years. So for it to end in a way where, those of us that were actually good to Boeheim didn't get an opportunity to ask him a question, shake his hand, thank him for all the years that he's given, me personally to thank him for what he's done for my city. That to me was the part that was hard for me to stomach, is that I felt like it was a way to kind of slam the door on the media, lock it, and say, we're going to give you this news and you guys can react to it, but you're not going to have an opportunity to talk to anybody about it. And that was hard. And I know that, Jim had some peace now, and, in the Adrian Autry press conference and all that, but it just felt like it was a way to tell the media, we're gonna let you know this, because that story was already written.
Yes.
We're gonna let you. Well, I mean, there's no way that they could have wrote the story walking outside to the bus, and so I mean, for those that know journalism, and I don't know, Gene. I mean, from my viewfinder, it just felt like a slap in the face of everybody that's covered him for so long.
And I also, I kind of agree with that a little bit too. I mean, you think about yourself, Donna, Mike. I mean, the people who've been there for years and years and years and years probably should have been able to ask him a question or two, or even be able to say thank you for all the years of being at Syracuse. Give you guys opportunity to thank him for everything. But again, also that's coach though. You're not going to get a lot out of him. He's not the most personable person, but especially to the media. But also, I think it should have been an opportunity where he could have clarified something a little bit earlier. But, when you look at the press conference when they introduced Autry, I mean, he showed some emotion. I mean, that was real. I mean, he got choked up. And at times, he seemed like he was struggling to get some of the words out that he wanted to talk, that he wanted to say. And I have to respect the fact that this is who he is. He wasn't always great with the media, but he was great with some people, and maybe some of those people should have got opportunity to to say something to him and get something out of him. But how much was he going to say? He's never really that kind of person where he's going to say a whole lot, especially in a situation like that. I think it was a lot for him to be able to digest. I mean, come on, 60 years, 60 years in school. If you get to 47, let's add on the other years.
Yeah.
It's a lot. That's a lot. I don't know how he could have just come up and, spoke. I think he needed some time to let it digest a little bit because, I mean, come on. That's a long time. One school. You can't even name one coach that even comes close to doing what he did at one school. One zone, one press. I mean, what he's done for all those years has been the same, and it's worked. The last couple of years has been a little bit of a down years, but it's going to be interesting to see what he does now.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you've known Coach for a long time. What do you think the man does now? Do you think he just golfs and I mean, does he take a job in broadcasting and does he do something? I mean, obviously he's going to be connected with the school in some way at Syracuse University, but how do you view Jim? I mean, asking this question, it makes me think about like Brett Favre. It makes me think about Carl Sanfilippo for the Beeville football team in Central New York. It makes me think about Joe Paterno. It's like there's certain people that you in your head you're like, what do they do after? You know what I mean? Like, what's Jim Boeheim going to do after? So, I mean, he's going to be in Syracuse. This is where he wants to be, and I appreciate that. But have you taken some time to think, like, where am I going to see Jim Boeheim next?
That's a great question. I think I do believe he's going to have something to do with the university in some capacity. I also believe there'll be times that he'll be doing some TV stuff. But he doesn't need that limelight. He doesn't really need that. I mean, everything that he's done, he has, I'm sure he's going to play some golf, but he's done it all, USA basketball, gold medals, championship at Syracuse, Big East championships. What he's done for the community in Syracuse. He's done absolutely everything. Now, you take Jim Boeheim out of Syracuse.
Yeah.
No one even knows what Syracuse is at.
True.
No one's even heard of Syracuse if it wasn't for Jim Boeheim.
And I agree with that.
That's a 100% fact. No one would have ever heard of Syracuse if it wasn't for Jim Boeheim.
And I agree with that, and I second that. And and Sonny, who was on before you, he says hello to you. He wanted to send you a hello from him. And
that's my buddy.
And so Gene, let's talk about this for a second and just get your thoughts. I was at the Big East tournament last year, and Sonny was there last year. Sonny won again this year.
Yeah, he's got family in some of those schools, those so-called Big East schools.
So let me do is going off of your point. You're leading me right into it, sir. So Gene, the Big East championship, and this is no disrespect to the schools themselves at all. Like, I respect the schools, I love the schools, I appreciate the Big East, and I appreciate the schools within it so very much so. And I want to preface that because I really do, and I don't say it if I don't. I care about these schools, and I think that there's a dynamic to them, even though they're not all in the East, that make them interesting. I'm just asking you this question because I'm a Big East kid. Today, the Big East tournament will have its finale. The championship will be played between Marquette and Xavier. What are your thoughts?
Oh my God, are you serious?
I want to know your thoughts.
That's not the Big East. I mean, they're playing in the Big East, but I had no words for that. I can't even put words together. I mean, there's no Georgetown, there's no Villanova, there's no Seton Hall, no St. John's. Well, I mean, Syracuse. I mean, that's the Big East. Those names that I just mentioned, that's Big East. Xavier, Marquette. When I was at Syracuse, we played against Marquette. Marquette wasn't in the Big East. We were.
Yeah.
So let's put that in perspective. So now I don't know, Dan. You got me on that one. I mean, the Big East to me is the teams that I mentioned, and the fact that you got those two teams playing for the Big East.
Yeah. Championship.
And they're not even in the East.
Yeah. Yeah, Jim.
But, respect to those schools, though, at the end of the day, we know what it was all about. It was all about the dollar. So, what are you going to do? But I truly believe if the Big East would have stayed together with the teams that were back in the 80s, I mean, it probably could have been one of the best conferences to this day, like it was in the 80s.
Well, go ahead. What were you going to say?
But there you have it, when money's being tossed around, things change, and that's just what happened. I mean, Syracuse being in the ACC, I'll never get that. I will never, ever get that. Syracuse don't belong in no ACC, not for basketball. Syracuse needs to be in the Big East.
Yeah.
Like a lot of other schools that I mentioned.
And I agree with you. I mean, I agree with you. Listen, I cannot say enough how great the ACC has been. I mean, they've been fantastic to me. I appreciate the connection that we have. I appreciate the people within it. I appreciate the people that I've met because of it. At the same time, I'm 9 years in, Gene, of covering the ACC tournament and Syracuse within it, and I still feel like we're at a party that we didn't get invited to. And
you know what's even more crazy? There's no rivalry
at all.
Syracuse don't have no rivalry in the ACC, whereas when it was the Big East, it was a rivalry with St. John's. It was always a rivalry with Villanova, Georgetown, Seton Hall. It was rivalries. Who's Syracuse rivalry with in the ACC? Nobody.
Yeah.
They're going to play good games again. They'll have good games. But there's no like, oh my God, can't wait for this. This is a real rivalry. Not Syracuse.
No, and that's the thing. And you bring it up, and I feel the same way. And I do this with people all the time. And I think I said it with you. And I've definitely said it on the show. I'll ask people, I'll say, who is Duke's rivalry in the ACC? North Carolina. And then I'll say, who's North Carolina's? And they'll say Duke. And I'll say, who's Syracuse's? And people will say Duke. And I'll say, so Syracuse is the side chick of the ACC. I mean, that's what they are. You know, it's if your biggest rival is not their biggest rival, then you know it doesn't make any sense how you can have something like that. Syracuse's biggest rival is Georgetown, and you know, and next to that, Villanova, UConn. Go back in history, St. John's. I mean, I remember, and still to this day, Gene, if you asked me right now, if I was the AD of Syracuse, and I was making Syracuse's non-conference schedule, we would play UConn, Georgetown, St. John's, and Villanova every year. I don't care how good they are. I don't care how bad they are. We would play them every single year because the kid in me needs to see at least those 4 games. I have to.
And you know what? The crowd will respond.
Oh, yeah.
On both sides. If they knew we were going to play at Villanova and Villanova, they would come play at the Carrier, the fans would show up in numbers.
How do we get back in the Big East, Gene? What do we need to do?
At this point, I couldn't tell you, but it would be something if it went back to how it was in the 80s and say, look, let's bring back the Big East the way it was, you know. But you know, and well, the thing is that when money's involved, I mean, sometimes the decision that you want to make, you can't.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I feel like. If I have now lived to see Jim Boeheim's retirement, which I thought he was going to outlast, I thought if I lived 100 years, he was going to still be coaching. And so now that I've seen that in my lifetime, will I see Syracuse return to the Big East? Can I go back to the Garden and see everybody, you know, back where they're supposed to be type of thing? I mean, to me, it's so weird. It's so strange. And you wonder if, like, college athletics gets crazy enough if it'll eventually reset, because there's the notion and the reality that I believe in that the pendulum can only swing so far in one direction before it swings back. So can it ever swing back? Could it ever swing back? I don't know what the hell they would do with football, but let's be honest, I don't even know if they care about football on the Hill anymore. So, like, you know, and that's not saying the coaching staff. That's saying I don't even know if the school if it went Division I AA, they'd be like, all right, cool. So I mean, I don't know, Gene. I mean, do you see a world where Syracuse could have some type of a reunion with the Big East? Basically, what I'm asking you, Gene, is like, can you and I and Sonny and like every other Syracuse player that ever lived and all the Syracuse fans, could we get what we want someday? And again, it's no offense to the ACC, but I'll tell you, the day that Syracuse returns to the Big East, I'm going to like be giddy all day, going crazy. Like it's a different world. It's a different feel. If you've lived in this world as a fan and as a broadcaster like I have, or as a player like Gene, if you've literally lived it, breathed it, been in the moments, been in the buildings, can we get back there, Gene? And, you know, I mean, do you and I need to, like, form a committee? What do we have to do?
Well, we need to go take a couple people hostage and make them do it.
Well, you know, Sonny talked about being Italian, so.
My wife and I, we used to go, when we used to go to the Garden, we was always there. Going there, going. And then when they went to the ACC, we went to Greensboro. I was like, never again. Never again. We had some fans, but the atmosphere, I mean, and, you know, all those schools from the South, I mean, they had everything. Yeah. And here's little old Syracuse coming from the north up here, and it was. So we did it. I think we did it once or twice, and I was like, "We're never going to do this again," because it just wasn't like that Madison Square Garden. the most famous arena in the world, where the Big East had the most incredible games. No longer.
Well, let me paint this picture for you, Gene. I didn't say this on the show up to this point, so you're the first person that's going to hear this, and everybody else that's watching and listening around the world. I had a fan sitting over my left shoulder for the Syracuse Wake Forest game in Greensboro, and he was yelling, "Send them back to New York."
Oh my gosh.
Now listen, besides the fact that I wanted to go through somebody when I heard that like a rhino, but when I heard "send them back to New York," if we were playing in the Big East, we would be in New York. So like,
yeah, exactly.
And then we would be saying "send them back to North Carolina." You know what I mean? So I mean, it's just, but it's listen, I have a respect for Greensboro, because it's the home of the ACC. They treat us well here. Again, I love the conference. I love the arena. I think the Coliseum is a beautiful place. I love the setup. I love everything about it. It's not the Garden, and nothing is the Garden. And I would say one of the most. I'm going to ask you this question, since you've experienced both, and you could probably answer this question better than anybody. I have an issue. I have never fully asked myself this question because I don't want to answer it, but I'm going to ask you the question because I want you to answer it. What's a better arena, Madison Square Garden or the Dome?
Wow. I have to go with the Dome. There's no place like the Dome. And when Syracuse is playing and they're on their game, there's no place like the Dome. And here's why I would say that. In 1980, we were playing for the Big East Championship in the Carrier Dome. And there must have been 30, 32, 33,000. And we won that in triple overtime with Leo Routens tipping that ball in. So for me, that's why I would say it was probably the best place. Better than Madison Square Garden. Although there's been some great games there when Syracuse been in the finals there. I've been in the finals there against Georgetown, and when we lost in overtime. But there's no place like the Carrier Dome. I put them at a tie because I'm a kid that grew up 20 minutes from Madison Square Garden. I'll put them at a tie, but I love my school, so I'll say Carrier Dome slightly, very slightly.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, I didn't want to ask myself that question because it's a tough question to answer, but I was kind of thinking about it, and I'm like, man, but you know what, Gene? You got to play in, and I got to broadcast and cut. I mean, you and I are spoiled enough to know either one of the arenas. So, I think the reality of it all for you and me is that we have the blessing, the honor of being able to connect with both of these arenas to even have an opinion, which I think above all things is pretty cool.
I think one thing that also struck me is that I had the opportunity to broadcast when I was broadcasting with Matt Park and doing some of the games down there in the Madison Square Garden, and that be able to do that and take in all that atmosphere of watching not just Syracuse play, but some of the other teams play against each other when it was the Big East. The atmosphere was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I don't think that will ever be duplicated again. No,
and I think that Syracuse, unfortunately, down here it was a road game. And, I mean, there was definitely Syracuse fans, and there's hopeful people. I would say Syracuse has more fans in Greensboro than you hear more Syracuse love than you hear from BC, than you hear from Pittsburgh. I just had somebody write in, well, Pittsburgh probably had some good fans because they had a good season. No, they played an away game against Duke. It was pretty undeniably Duke.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what it was.
And that's the thing is like, so if you pull Pittsburgh, if you pull Louisville, if you pull, Boston College, who moved such a long, I mean, for goodness sakes, Miami left before, right? They left before Syracuse, they left before Pitt and Louisville and Notre Dame. Go back to Miami. I'm at the game last night. It's a Final Four game. Miami's playing Duke. Miami's the number 1 seed, and Miami was playing an away game. And they're the number 1 seed, and they've been in the conference longer than Syracuse. So, I mean, if Miami still doesn't fit, and Pitt doesn't fit, and BC, who left early too, they don't fit, and, Virginia Tech fits, I guess, because of Virginia Tech. But if Syracuse, Louisville, Notre Dame gets no love here, they're always playing an away game. For goodness sakes, when they were going toward their championship to win a championship under Mike Bray, which they did, and almost won 2 of them here in the ACC, when Notre Dame won that championship, there was like 3 people that were cheering for Notre Dame. So, I mean, if Notre Dame, Louisville, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Miami, BC, none of them fit, still to this day. You know what I mean? Then what are we doing? For some schools, almost 2 decades later. For Syracuse, almost a decade later. Pitt, almost a decade later. Louisville, 9 years later. Notre Dame, a decade later. What are we doing in today's modern college basketball if these teams have played for 10 years or more in this conference, and outside of Syracuse, because fans travel extremely well, everything feels like an away game? I mean, Pitt, BC, Miami. When you sit at a Final Four game in a conference tournament and the number 1 seed is Miami, and they have a relative quiet to nothing, and it was just Duke I felt like I was in Cameron last night. And that's not fair to Miami. I'm sorry, it's not.
And one thing that you said earlier a few minutes ago is that Syracuse fans are everywhere. Syracuse fans are all over the world, and that's because of one person, Jim Boeheim. Plain and simple.
And let's get back. No, you do. I mean, let's get back to that, Gene. You said he was there for you. You and I have had very candid conversations. I'll never forget our Thanksgiving morning conversation where you texted me and said, "I'm finally ready to talk." And you trusted me to tell your story. Jim Boeheim wasn't there for you as a player. Jim Boeheim was there for you as a person. He continues to be there for you as a person and has helped you through things that had nothing to do with basketball. So I'm just going to kind of open the floor to you and let you speak on Jim Boeheim, not the coach, but Jim Boeheim, the man that when Gene Waldron needed a lifeline, Jim Boeheim was there.
Listening to you talk about that, I start to feel that emotion, because there was times even when I played at Syracuse, I was just like, this guy doesn't, he doesn't care, and then I know when I needed help because I couldn't help myself, he was there. He was right there. And he would just always to say to me, you got to take care of yourself. And we had conversations, and after years and years, we had conversations. He said, you were a good player. He said, I probably rode you harder than most players because I had my expectations of you were very high. And to this day, I can call him up. We can have a conversation, and he's always, how you doing? And I think that gave me some clarity, because if it wasn't for Coach, because I'll never forget that day he came to my mom's house and said, I want your son to come to Syracuse. And even to this day, I'm grateful to that man, because God knows what could have happened if he wasn't in my corner. I owe that man a lot. And that's why when all this went down, I'm posting stuff, and at the end of all my posts, I just says, I love you, Coach. And that's from the heart. So there you have it.
Yeah. And Gene, you have shared so much about Boeheim over the years with me and everything from the heart, and I appreciate that. And, you give a different look into Jim Boeheim because people think that he's like this ornery, angry, like hates everybody, always in a bad mood. That's not who he is. And
not even close. And here's the thing, the people who don't know him, the ones who criticize and say things, and see, I know the man. And that's why I will defend him to the death. I mean, you're not gonna get after my coach. You're just not. And him as a coach or as a person, it's just not gonna happen. And I don't care what people say. I'm 110%. I'm defending that guy.
Yeah, and that comes from somebody who has built a rapport with you. When did you know, like you said, you didn't know it at certain points when you were at Syracuse if he cared about you. When did you finally realize that maybe it was tough love or that he always cared?
I think it was after I finished playing overseas, and I moved to North Carolina for a little bit. Then I needed to come back to Syracuse. As soon as I came back, the door was wide open. He got me in position where I could do some broadcasting. And then I ran into a little bit of tough time. And he proved himself again that, I'm here for you. And, from those times, it was nothing but, this guy really cared. I mean, he never really, he showed it in a really different way. And it was some tough love.
Yeah.
There's no about that, but he saw that I needed that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I had, a big reason why I have so much respect for him. He's just one of the most amazing people that you can ever meet. And, if you try, you could get to know him. You could get to know him, but it just takes some time. It won't happen overnight, but he proved to me that, some of the things that I felt were wrong. Some of the things that I was doing were wrong. And he made me realize that,
yeah.
And, I can't be nothing but grateful, So it's just like when I heard that he was leaving, I mean, in the last 2 years, it was always in my head. I was like, man, I don't want this guy to leave. I want him to retire, because he meant so much to me, so much to the university, so much to the community. It was just something I could never foresee. I was like you said, you could be 100 and he still be coaching. But yeah, he's just amazing. He's just an amazing human being in his own way, though.
Yeah.
And you have to respect that.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Gene Waldron, Syracuse Orange Basketball alum here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios in a special broadcast, a bonus broadcast this week as Wake Up Call is on the road. We use that hashtag Wake Up Call OTR. I'm down in Greensboro, Gene and Jim Boeheim's favorite place to visit. And so I happy to have this conversation with Gene and all the conversations I get to have with someone that I consider family that means so very much to me. And Gene, before I let you go, and I want to say this too, because like you said, you end every sentence with this, and I'm a person where when you say it, when you feel it, say it. So before I ask you anything else and we talk about anything else, I just want you to know, for all the years, for everything that we've had, I love you back. And you know that I love you, but I want you to hear that I love you because you have shared with me so many things about your life. You've trusted me and you've been there for me. You have come out and done events with me and sat with me.
Those were some fun events, though.
What'd you say?
Those were some fun events.
But, I just want to tell you that. I want you to know that I love you. And I'm happy that, you didn't give up on yourself and give up on, your mission of being who you are today and where you are today, because, you know, you're an inspiration every day when it comes to health, when it comes to love, when it comes to taking care of things. And so I would be wrong to say anything else this morning before saying that I really do love you, and I really do appreciate our friendship, and I can't thank you enough for it.
Well, you know, I appreciate that. You know, when you also have a wife like I have, who's got like an amazing, strong backbone, who's 100% supports, you know, even with the ups and downs, always has your back, never ever will let you down. I mean, like, she's the captain of the ship, you know, and I respect that, you know, and without her, there's no me. So I think I also have to give, you know, a lot of the credit to her, because she's like stood right by me, and, you know, and everything that I have in my life is not just because of me. It's a lot more so because of her, you know. And I'm truly grateful to have a woman in my life like Jeannie. And I mean, she's just the most amazing person in the world, and I'm just incredibly grateful.
As I always say, because I care about her and I don't want to get in trouble, I love you too, Mrs. Waldron. So final note here, Gene, your thoughts on Adrian taking over?
I think it's going to be this is an amazing opportunity for a guy who actually deserves it. He put in the work. Yeah. He understands the game. I think the players will relate to him fairly easily. I really hope that the unit that he has can stay. I would love to see Gerard come back, Edwards come back. You know, that nucleus that they have, they could be, like he said yesterday, they could do something very special if everybody sticks together. I already know one guy is planning on leaving, put his name into the portal. But, you know, if you can get these guys to stay and stick together, they can be extremely special next year. And I think Adrian is the guy that's going to hold this team together, hopefully. I think he's going to do some great things, because he's got that drive, you know. He may seem like he's laid back, but you know, he's got some tenacity to him, and he's going to get those guys ready to play. He's a good recruiter, good communicator, and, you know, he's got great staff. And I'm just wishing him well. I'm just really excited to see. I'm excited, but I'm also in the back of my mind sad that my man, Coach Boeheim's not going to be there. But he's got a great opportunity in front of him, and I hope he takes full advantage of it.
That coming from Gene Waldron. Can't thank him enough. Syracuse Orange men's basketball alum here on the broadcast, and a friend of mine. Gene, as always, my best to you. And I'm going to say this again because it needs to be said. When is Mrs. Waldron going to allow me to have some of this food that you put on Facebook all the time? Like, what do I have to do to get some food at the Waldron house is what I need to know.
You have to come over and get it.
Well, I gotta get I don't just invite myself over to the house. I got to get that invitation. That's what I need. So
okay. I have to have a word with the missus then.
Okay.
Because I tell you what, she's making a mean meatloaf today. Yeah. Yesterday she made homemade shrimp egg rolls. Dan, I'm telling you right now, you don't know. These things were out of bounds.
I heard homemade egg rolls, and I think I just changed my flight from Greensboro. I don't know what happened, but but thank you as always, Gene, for being so open and sharing so many awesome things. You gave a unique perspective to Jim Boeheim today that the world needed to hear. So I thank you for sharing that.
You got it, Dan. Take care.
All right, take care. That coming from Gene Waldron once again on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. JB Reafsnyder coming up on the broadcast in just a moment. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. We'll be back with our final portion of today's bonus episode from the great state of North Carolina, as we are here in Greensboro and with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. For those of you in central and upstate New York, head off to Cafe Kubal today. Support local and enjoy the beautiful, wonderful coffees as well as teas and chais and everything that they have to offer. Head out there today. Let them know the Wake Up Call sent you, and we'll be back right after this.
Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout central and upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience.
And welcome back. here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. Always appreciate being here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We're doing a bonus show today on Saturday, March 11th. Why? Because, it's been a slow news week. Not too much has gone on. It's not like anybody retired who did an unprecedented 47 years as a head coach in one place, or 60 years in total, or the fact that it was handled in a unique way, or the fact that we had breaking news yesterday morning from Alan Griffin on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora that him and Jerry McNamara are staying, or the fact that my good friend Adrian Autry got the job. So not a lot of stuff going on in Syracuse, but I'm happy to be here with you and happy to have the conversation. And, of course, being facetious, which is also called sarcastic, which if people don't know what that means, you can still joke in 2023, I think. I don't know if joking has been canceled yet, but we'll discuss it. Happy to be here with you, and thank you so much for being a part of the show. We are inside of these Cafe Kubal studios, and of course, we've had a trio of wonderful guests set up for you today. You heard from Sonny Spera, you heard from Gene Waldron, and now inside of Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, JB Reafsnyder is here to join me and give his thoughts on Boeheim Autry and Syracuse Then and Now. So JB Reafsnyder, part of the Cuse in the House, oh my God team, the team that went to the 1996 championship game and went up against Kansas. And we have a picture up here where JB Reafsnyder put it on his man. So let me bring him in and talk about this. JB, how you doing?
Good, Dan. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Can you bring me into this picture and the fact that this gentleman that was it Rafe LaFrance that is on the ground here right now?
It was Rafe LaFrance, and it may be the best inside-out crossover dribble I've ever done in my life. And somebody was gracious enough to capture it in a photograph. I like to say I went up and slammed it, but I think all the Syracuse fans that are listening know I wasn't a big-time dunker, so I may have gone up and laid it in. But I do know that we won that game in the Elite Eight, and Al McGuire was dancing to the Cuses in the House as we were marching our way on to the Final Four that year after that game.
Yeah. An incredible opportunity to be a part of that team, to go back to 1995, 96 and be a part of the Cuses in the House, oh my God, squad. Bring me into that, because we're talking Syracuse then and now. What was it like to experience that, and how would you describe Jim Boeheim on the sideline that season?
Well, Coach has always been a great leader.
Yeah.
Puts a lot of trust and faith in his players. Coached each of us differently. Some players he knew he could really get on, yell at, and it would motivate them. Others he knew if he did that, they may crumble. So he would show a little more patience with them, which I think is a great sign of an excellent coach. And he had a very senior-laden team that year, which is, in today's game is very rare. You had John, you had Z, you had myself, you had some other juniors, Marius, Ganulis. It was just a squad. We were all grateful John decided to come back. He obviously could have gone to the league, but he decided to come back his senior year. It was just something magical, and it started in August of 95 when we went over on a little European tour and just were really bonding, and it just stuck throughout the season. And it was disappointing in the end when we couldn't deliver a championship for him, and so I'm so grateful to Mello and G-Mac and Akeem and the team that got Coach his championship.
Yeah.
But just even being on a team that not only played in the Final Four, but one of the three teams he's coached in his illustrious 47-year career to play for a national championship. It's just such an honor that he thought I was good enough to play at a school like Syracuse, and then to be fortunate enough to play in that championship game is something I'll always cherish.
JB, why do you think Jim Boeheim took a chance on you? What was it about the interaction there and maybe something that he said that's lasted with you that you can reflect on and say, like, this is what he told me, this is why. Because I know coaches have to take a chance on everybody that they bring in. Why do you think he took a chance on you, and what can you share about that?
Well, I can say two things. One, I think I was messing up pretty bad one time, and he asked me why he wasted a scholarship on me. But he told me later on he didn't really mean that. And then we did have a conversation, and our old great big man coach, I know, things have happened in the past with Coach Fine and stuff, but I think it was, running that zone. They looked for, you have to have somebody in the middle of the zone. He had Ronnie Cycli before, myself, Otis Hill. Big men who had IQ for the game, who could organize the zone defense, knew how to slide and move over and just get after it. Somebody who's willing to do the dirty work. I know we used to have this charge chart that he and the staff maintained, who took the most charges, and Otis and I were always battling it out for that because I wasn't any great leaper, but I was willing to throw my body in front of somebody and let them run right through me to get the offensive foul. Knew I'd be a good role player for the team. Wasn't going to be the superstar, but knew I had a good work ethic. He told me at one time, and I'd do whatever he asked me to do because I just wanted to get on the court and get my best for the university.
Speaking here with JB Reafsnyder, Syracuse Orange Basketball alum, on the heels of Jim Boeheim's retirement, Adrian Autry being hired, and we are here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. JB, you crossed up Rafe LaFrentz in that Kansas game like we had spoken about en route to the championship game against Kentucky. Like you said, you guys didn't win the championship that year, but that was, to me, next to 2003, I would argue it's the most incredible Syracuse season ever. Being a part of that team, being a part of that season from the inside out, why do you believe, if you agree with me, why do you believe that that's one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen?
I do agree with you. The 87 team may disagree, of course, but...
Well, they're in there too, yeah.
Yeah, but, I think it was the group of players that we had on that team. I mean, you didn't have a ton of superstars. You had John Wallace, tremendous player, one of the best to ever do it at Syracuse, and a group of guys who were following his lead and coach's lead. No complaining about playing time. No looking at I know we didn't have it back then, a transfer portal because you weren't getting enough minutes and jumping ship. Who were dedicated to the program, dedicated to the process, and trying to take it all the way to the end as one unit. And like I said, it started in the beginning with that trip to Europe. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. We started the season, I believe it was 11-0 until we lost to UMass out in Hawaii. Then we hit a little rough patch, and then obviously we finished the season strong. But just the moments when you look at that, even the tournament, the last second shot by Jason Sapola to get us to overtime against Georgia, then John's three to win it in overtime against Georgia, then taking on a Kansas team that was just stacked with NBA talent, with Jacques Vaughn, Rafe LaFrentz, Scott Pollard, Paul Pierce. Nobody gave us a chance there. And we came out and dominated that game and got that victory. And then we go up against a stacked Mississippi State team with Eric Dampier and Dante Jones. Somehow we win that game too. And then we are right there, toe-to-toe with the Kentucky Wildcats, who basically had two starting five teams. It was loaded with NBA talent. And I've got a picture here at the house with like 2:30 to go, and we're down 4 points.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the refs don't. It's never always the refs' fault. sometimes they can contribute to stuff. John fouled out, and they made their free throws down the stretch, and they got the victory over us. But it's not like they blew us out. We were right there in that game, and it just showed the passion and determination and what can happen when that all comes together.
And coming from JB Reafsnyder here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, discussing that 1996, and give credit to 1996, 1987, 2003, of course, 2013, 2016. 2016, I was the only person in America that picked Syracuse to be at the top of the ACC. An article was written about me being a mystery person, which I never was. I revealed my picks preseason on my own website for free. And at the end of the season, my dad said to me, "What are they going to do when you're right?" And the answer to that was they did nothing. So I had to remind everybody what I had picked in 2016. So shout out to all those teams that made it to the Final Four and to teams that made it to the championship game. And no disrespect by any stretch of the imagination to the 1987 team. Much love to them. I was 2 years old, and so watching the 1996, I was 9. And got to experience that in a little bit of a different way, but a big shout out to all the teams. Jim Boeheim's retirement, we were talking about it off the air, JB. When it happened, how it happened, how did you respond to the way in which we all found out?
Well, I was driving home from work, and my phone just starts blowing up that Coach retired.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean Coach retired? No, I had heard he kind of said it was his choice about a month ago, and then maybe sort of retract that a little bit. And then I came home, turned on the TV, and saw that the university had announced that he was retiring and Adrian was taking over. And I was in a state of shock, and I think Coach K came out maybe a day or two later, and he used the word that I would describe it as just kind of an awkward moment, an awkward way to retire. Because after all Coach has done, and this is just my opinion, after all he's done for not just the basketball program, but the university, the community, I kind of felt he deserved kind of a swan song kind of season. Farewell tour. I know that's probably not Coach's style. He may not have wanted that. And I know he came out yesterday when they were introducing Adrian and got emotional and said it was his decision. He'd let players know in advance. And I'm glad that it was, and it wasn't just a unilateral decision by the university. But I mean, that's just where I was just shocked and it felt kind of awkward to me how it went down.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very strange occurrence, and I think that we all can second that it felt very, very weird. From my standpoint, it felt very unfair, the way that it happened, and it was just such a whirlwind of just weird moments and strange things, and an email, 47 years, and you get an email without a quote from him saying, "Jim's retired, everybody have a good day," type of thing. And it was just a very weird situation. But, on the other side of it, we have Adrian Autry. And I would love, JB, for you to give your thoughts on Adrian and the fact that he's taken over this program. He's been the associate head coach, which, he told me a few years ago. I said, what does that mean? And he said, if Coach gets sick, if he gets suspended, if he gets ejected, kicked out of a game, I hold the clipboard. And now he's holding the clipboard for real, for real. What are your thoughts on Adrian Autry leading this program?
I think Adrian's going to do a great job. I played with Adrian for 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I redshirted 1 year and then had the opportunity to play with him. Very high basketball IQ. Very driven individual. A leader among men. You have to be that to play point guard at a place like Syracuse. So I think he has all those intangibles to do an excellent job as a head coach. He's learned from one of, not the best to ever do it at the collegiate level for not just as a player, but then I think he's been on the sidelines for about 20 years, maybe, or something absurd like that with Coach. He's already made a great decision keeping Griff and GMAC on board, kind of keeping it in-house. People who've been part of teams who've won championships. So, and you know, he's going to bring a new flavor to the game. I mean, I've always been fine with how Coach coaches the game, and I know he's had his detractors over the years and people hating, and I probably should not chimed in on social media lately, almost defending Coach. To everybody who's saying it was time for him to go, he's past his time and everything. But I think Adrian's going to bring just a new energy to the program. I hope the recruits can see that and don't start jumping ship like sometimes they do when a coach steps down or leaves. Because some players, you know, my daughter's going through it with looking at college soccer programs to play with. Don't go for necessarily the coach. You got to go for the school too, and the university and the program, because coaches come and go these days. And I just hope the university gives them a chance, because it's hard to fill in big shoes like that. I mean, we all see what's happening at Duke, right?
Yeah.
Duke did not have the season that they usually have. But I wish Adrian all the best. I think he's going to do a fantastic job, and I just hope the Cuse fans and the university is patient through the process.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing is, you know, can people be patient? Can people give time, you know, and allow him to build what he wants to build the way he wants to build it? JB, what would you like to see? You know, Adrian, like you said, was your teammate. What are you hoping for? Offensively, defensively, scheme-wise? What are you kind of osmosis, kind of like trying to telepathically be like, hey, Adrian, do this? What are you hoping for?
It is not for me to tell Adrian what he should do by any stretch of the imagination. I wouldn't even think of doing it when I played there now, let alone when he's the head coach. But, you know, obviously the game has changed some.
Yeah.
You know, I think the zone can still be effective. Obviously, these kids these days are shooting from further and further away. And so, you know, is the 2-3 the best kind of defense when people are shooting from 24, 25 feet from the basket and you're kind of at the three-point line? It may not be. So maybe changing it up a little bit. I don't think the offense needs to change very much. I mean, Adrian will have his ideas on offense. I just know that zone, I like the zone. I coach the zone, but of course I'm coaching younger kids, and it's effective because fifth grade boys aren't shooting 60% from three-point range, right? So it's an effective defense.
Yeah.
But I don't think you completely strip it away. You got to mix things up, and I'd like to see that a little bit. But at the same token, you know, a lot of the knock against Coach is he was past his time because he wouldn't change necessarily from just going all zone all the time. And I don't think that's, I mean, you had mentioned it. 7 years ago, they were playing in the Final Four. People were shooting from way out three-pointers back then, too.
Yeah.
So you don't shoot as high a percentage from three as you do from two. So it still can be an effective tool, but changing it up some, putting a little more pressure, speeding up the game a little bit. I mean, that just seems to be today's game overall.
So, JB, from your seat, having Jim as your coach, having him take a chance on you in your collegiate career, what do you, when you think of Jim Boeheim and you think about everything he's done, what stays top of the mind to you the most above everything? When I say Jim Boeheim, what type of memory does that ignite in you?
So many emotions. It's a guy who took a chance on this scrawny, tall, white kid out of Cincinnati, Ohio, to come play in the Big East, not the ACC, but the Big East Conference, the legendary Big East Conference, and what he did for me while I was there those 5 years. And then more importantly and more telling about who Jim Boeheim is as a person, what he's done post Syracuse for me. Whether it's the note in the mail after he got wind that my mother passed away back in 2003, or my ability to pick up the phone, call him, email him, whenever I need something or just want to talk. His writing letters of recommendations when I was applying to law schools for me. I wasn't some star player. He didn't have to do any of that. He could have saved that for the Mellos and the G Macs and the John Wallaces and the Derek Colemans. But he was willing to do that for me. And I just think that tells you more about him as a person, that he actually cared about every single one of his players that ever played for him over his 47 years as a head coach. His door is always open for us.
And you said when your mother passed away in 2003 that there was a letter in the mail.
Yeah, a handwritten letter from him, which, people write handwritten letters is old school. People don't do that. But it wasn't some hand-stamped signature and stuff. It was just a note from him that he and the program were thinking of me and my family, because it's hard for me, living down the Deep South nowadays with my family and stuff, to get up there for alumni weekend and everything like that. So I hadn't seen him really since it had been maybe 5-6 years since I'd seen him. And I get this letter from him just saying he had heard about my mother's passing, and he was deeply sorry to hear that. His thoughts and prayers and the program's thoughts and prayers were with our family at that time. It just meant so much to me that he'd take his time to reach out to someone like me, who was just a little role player on his team, in a moment of grief like that.
Well, JB, I know you said, scrawny kid, from Cincinnati, Ohio. I know you said, just a role player, but to someone like me, 9 years old, watching my hometown team, the only colors that I've ever known, and seeing what you guys did that year, you were not just a role player. You were not just another guy on the team. You were a part of a team that, to me personally, is one of the greatest memories I have in my life. Lazarus Sims, Jason Cipolla, Todd Bergen, John Wallace, Otis Hill, Marius Gianoulis, yourself, David Patrick, Bobby Laser, Elvira Chena, Alimu Nelson, Donovan McNabb. People forget that about McNabb and Nelson being on the team. Jim Hayes, Eric Frazier, Jacarl Riggins, Jim May, and of course the coaching staff that was there. On paper, this team never got the credit that they deserved or the belief in them. But you guys believed, and that's what I know Syracuse to be. It is a blue-collar town of people who don't get the respect they deserve, don't get the notoriety, don't get the publicity, don't get the spotlight, but they earn it. They go and they fight for it. It's not handed to them. They go and they take it. And if I've learned anything about Syracuse and who we are, we're gritty. Our teams are gritty. Our people are gritty. Our businesses are gritty. And we know that nobody's going to come here, turn the cameras on and say, hey, look at you, you're awesome. But we're going to go out there, we're going to put our work in, and we're going to show you what we can do and how we can do it. and why it's special and why it's unique and why you should pay attention and why you should come to our community and why you should appreciate our community and the people within the community. This is a community of fighters, a community of strong, good-hearted, genuine, wonderful, moral, values-driven people who are salt of the earth, and there's some amazing, amazing people with some really big hearts in this community. So when you say I was just a little role player, I say no. I say thank you for being a part of the community of Syracuse. You're always going to be a part of the community of Syracuse, and I appreciate the fact that you as a young kid and your team taught me to never give up no matter what anybody says.
Well, I appreciate those very kind words, and it means a lot that you, as a fan who grew up watching Syracuse, have those memories, and you're able to share them and your experience with the younger Orange fans nowadays, and I hope they get to have some of the same experiences and love affair with the program that you and so many other Cuse fans. I mean, it was, I think you said it eloquently, that it was blue collar, and so were the players, hardworking, determined. We played for each other, we played for the fans, we played for the school, we played for coach. It's all one tight-knit family.
Yeah.
And I've always felt welcome back in Syracuse. We have a huge Syracuse alumni base down here in Memphis, Tennessee area. Big Al Wooten, the great football player, fullback for Syracuse, who played in the NFL for years, is down here with me, and we're just always talking and amazed that Go Orange is everywhere down here, and and they are diehard fans. You don't have to just be living in Syracuse, New York, to be a diehard fan. They are everywhere, and just so happy to have been a part of it for so many years.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and those words are said incredibly well by JB Reafsnyder here, Syracuse Orange men's basketball alum on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. JB, before I let you go, you talked about, being in the Big East and Boeheim taking a chance on a kid from Cincinnati, Ohio. Well, now the Big East is filled with teams from all over the country. So what are your thoughts on the fact that the Big East Championship that will be played tonight will feature Marquette and Xavier?
It's called the Big East, but it's not the Big East.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean. I played in the Big East when it was Northeastern schools.
Yeah.
Boston College, Pitt, Georgetown, Syracuse, St. John's, Villanova. Those were that was Connecticut, Rutgers. That was my time, and I'd say, that 80s through the 90s, the heyday of the Big East. Period. Playing in Madison Square Garden, the mecca of sports, for when we just play St. John's sometimes, and then always the Big East tournament.
Yeah.
Now, of course, all those Northeastern teams wanted to go south in the winter some, so we'd have Miami in the conference, something like that, so we could be snowbirds for a couple days and get out of the cold. But those are my memories. It just when I remember doing an interview for ESPN when Syracuse moved to the ACC, and my thoughts on that. And it didn't feel right with me then. Still doesn't feel right with me now. That's the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Yeah.
They have their storied history, and I get it. It comes down to the almighty dollar and the revenue from football and everything like that. But Marquette and Xavier, they're not Big East schools in my mind when I think of the Big East. And I thought it was so, I know ESPN probably did it on purpose, but it was so poetic that after Boeheim's retirement, they're running that 30-for-30 about the requiem of the Big East and how it started, and showing Coach Boeheim and Lou Carnesecca and Raleigh Massimino and all the greats, and Patrick Ewing and Mourning and Mutombo and AI, DC, Billy Owens, that's the big Monday games, always televised on ESPN. And that's why I chose to go play in Syracuse, was to be in the mecca of basketball at that time.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. And listen, I appreciate the Big East and I appreciate the schools individually. We're just talking about the history and what it sounds like when you hear Marquette Xavier playing for a championship in a conference that used to feature all these teams in the Northeast. That coming from JB Reafsnyder, Syracuse Orange men's basketball alum. JB, your final word that you have, I'm going to leave it open to anything. We talked about Autry, we talked about Boeheim, we talked about Big East, the history, your personal history, the note that you want to leave with today. You and I will be talking plenty more, but just what you'd like to say today is your final word.
Just a couple things, if you'll give me the time.
Absolutely.
One is, I took a look at some numbers because I've heard a lot of criticism from some people lately that Coach had been past his time. He'd only won one championship in 47 years. And I don't like that kind of argument because I looked and only 15 teams out of 352 Division I teams have gone to the Final Four more than 5 times in the history of the NCAA. 15 out of 352. Coach has been there 5 times. Yeah. So all those other programs, all those other coaches who've come and gone have not had the level of success Coach had. And he has 1,116 wins. The NCAA can say they can vacate whenever they want to vacate, but he has 1,116, an average of 23.7 wins a season, and average 9 losses a season over 47 years. That is sustained success. And so to all the people who, say he's past his time and want to criticize him, you need to think about that if we'll ever see that kind of sustained success ever again. Because he did so much for that school, the university, me personally, all my teammates and other Syracuse alum, that I wish him all the best in retirement. I love him as the coach and as a man, and we'll never forget what he's done for me. I wish Adrian Autry the best. I'm going to be a big supporter of him. I bleed orange, and I just want the university to be patient with him and go Cuse. We'll always be in the house.
I love it. I appreciate it. And I was going to end with Cuse is in the house, oh my God, but JB just said, go Cuse, will always be in the house. And I think that's a new tagline. So I'm going to leave it at that. JB, as always, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for letting me be the little kid at 9 years old, now at 37 years old, getting to talk to some of my favorite players of one of my favorite eras of Syracuse basketball, man. I know you're humble about it and you don't think much of it. You just kind of play the game and do your thing. But for the kid in me and the adult in me, it's one of the coolest things I've ever gotten to do in my life is to get to talk to all you guys from that team. So thank you for that.
Well, Dan, thank you. You have a wonderful platform. Always been a big supporter of not only me, but all of us Syracuse players, and always a great opportunity to speak with you.
Well, I appreciate it, JB. So I'll talk with you soon, and Cuse is always in the house, according to JB Reafsnyder. I agree. I'll talk with you, man.
Thanks, Dan.
Take care. See you. I come from JB Reafsnyder. I like that. I was about to end it with, and the Cuse is in the house. Oh, my God. And what did he say? He said, go Cuse, always in the house. We'll take a step aside. We'll be back to wrap things up right after this.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus, where you will find handcrafted all-natural soy wax candles over 60 cents to freshen up your home. We carry a wide range of locally made items, Salsa Cuse, Syracuse Salt, and Chocolate Pizza Company, to name a few. Let our knowledgeable staff help choose unique gifts and keepsakes for any occasion. Gifts for family and friends, and maybe a little something for yourself. Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus.
This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Happy to be here with you, and thank you so much for being a part of the show. This has been a tremendous week. 15 schools in 5 days. So to me, I knew I was going to be busy. I did not know for sure. I heard rumblings, but I didn't know that this was going to be the week that it was. 37 years old. I'm a kid in my eyes still. And my grandmother said, you're only as old as you feel. And 37 years old, and the only coach I've ever known at Syracuse is not the coach anymore, you know? And to me, that's crazy, but it's true. So this week is a week that I will always come back to. Wednesday, March 8th, 2023, a little bit after 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Jim Boeheim announced as done with his time at Syracuse as head coach. Adrian Autry stepping in. It's been an interesting week. It's been a beautiful week. The weather's been fantastic. My experience in Greensboro has been wonderful as always. My memories are positive and good. My guests have been great. The shows have been great. The experience of the ACC tournament has been great.
I'm happy to be here with you. Every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Today was a bonus episode, but you'll find us back here, and we'll have the opportunity to have some more conversations this week, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. On wakeupcalldt.podbean.com, which we made history going live on Podbean after being on Podbean and putting up our shows there for more than 12 years now. 13 years now? No, let me think. 11 years now, pardon me. So from 2012, July of 2012. So to go live on Podbean, we made history here in Greensboro. More history done in North Carolina, just like we made history in starting comic book trails in North Carolina. So one of the shows that I do, and we continue to do, and we're actually doing it while we're down here, pulling some double duty with Wake Up Call and comic book trails. So, this has been wonderful. wakeupcalldt.podbean.com has been incredible to us. Thank you for everything. It's where I started airing my shows on the internet, so I can't thank Podbean enough. And just grateful to be here with you. Once the shows go live, they're already in the archives. We got a ton of stuff up there, and there's so much more to come, folks. You have no idea. Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and there's more now. You could search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or Wake Up Call DT on any one of these outlets. Download us, follow us, keep us, have us. Go to your search engine, look up Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and find your favorite podcasting platform. Search us in there, save us, download it, keep it, continue to support. We appreciate it so very much. Make sure you click that follow button when you're on any one of these outlets. And we thank all of our new subscribers all over the place, including all of our new ones on YouTube. You can ask Alexa or your Google Home device to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and they'll do that as well. A big thanks to our incredible partners of Cafe Cabal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Witty Wicks, Pizza Man, Avicoli's, Amon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, K9 Camp Dog Daycare, PB&J's Lunchbox, Great Lakes Honda City, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, K9 Campground Dog Boarding, Chick-fil-A Watertown, Mother's Cupboard, and 317 at Montgomery. The name of the restaurant is the name of the location, 317 at Montgomery Street in downtown Syracuse, and we're proud to be the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of yours. College Dolphins, first and third Wednesday of each month, AD and DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. Every second and fourth Wednesday, we jump into the Dolphin Dive, diving into the stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. You can get all of that content by going to the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com, which has just been updated recently, and you can find all of our content by subscribing to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. For more information on your Dolphins, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com. And a big shout out to Mary Grimes and the Lemoyne Dolphins women's basketball team. In the 2 seasons that Mary's been the head coach, they've achieved a place in the NCAA Division II tournament nationally, and they just finished up their season yesterday, and I want to congratulate them on yet another trip to the NCAA tournament, making Lemoyne a team that people are now expecting to see in the nation's tournament on the national stage. So a big shout out to Lemoyne and all the hard work that the entire staff and all the student athletes are doing, and God bless to each and every single one of you, and as always, fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and the Bobcat Buzz comes to you every single month on Wake Up Call. You got to check it out. Got to get yourself connected to the wonderful Bobcat stories. You can go to the BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com. That's BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com, and make sure that you check out all of our content there that's just been updated. You can also join us on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, and once you become a member, you could search Bobcat Buzz after subscribing, and you'll be able to get our entire library, so make sure that you do that. We appreciate you so very much for everybody that has come to BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com, as well as subscribe to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt to support your Bobcats and get to watch and listen to their coaches and student athletes in a way that has never been done before. And of course, we are getting ready for this Monday as the men's basketball team will have the opportunity at winning a national championship in their return to the tournament. We want to thank Danny Frisina for getting the team to the tournament as the first ever head coach of the program, and want to thank Clay Gagan Sherman for getting them back in his first season at the helm of this team. So a big shout out to both of those coaches, and a big shout out to the current Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse men's basketball team, their staff, their student athletes, their trainers, and everybody involved. And a big shout out to Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse, Nick Dimitrievsky and the entire team there, Alex Grigorita, Sean Peak, Tay Baker, of course Clay Gagan Sherman, and everyone involved. So much thanks to all of you for all the work that you do. And make sure for more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to take another second to once again thank my trio of fantastic guests that joined me in this bonus episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora this week from the Cafe Kubal Studios. Sonny Spera, Gene Waldron, JB Reafsnyder, all giving their heartfelt thoughts to their coach, and all telling Jim Boeheim to the world, openly, happily, and proudly, that they love him. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I can't wait to talk with you again. I'll see some of you at the ACC tournament. You'll hear from me for the American Athletic Conference tournament as well. And I can't wait for Selection Sunday. May you all be well, travel well, be healthy, be safe. Wherever you are, be happy. Take care of each other. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Always practice kindness. Thank you for letting me be a part of a historic week with you. Thank you for making history with me. Thank you for trusting my voice. Thank you to all my guests that trust me with your stories. Thank you to every team here at the ACC tournament that has trusted me to share your views. And thank you to all my family and friends for loving me the way that you do and always being there for me. And I thank God that I have my phone ring and it's my mom or it's my dad, that they're still alive, here to talk to. I value now more than ever when I get a phone call from my parents and I just look at it for a second, because I know how fleeting life can be, no matter what your age is or what's going on. So be a good person. Only focus on those that love you. Let all those other things go. And shoot your shot. Take the chance. So many people regret never taking the shot. If you miss it, yeah, it stinks. But you took it. And the more shots you take, the more shots you'll eventually make. Keep practicing, keep fighting. And I can't wait to see that shot go through the nylon for you. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Have a fantastic day. God bless. No stress. Do your best. We will talk soon. And I can't wait for that moment. Be good, everybody. Have a great day.